What happens when the most expensive bomber in the U.S. arsenal, carrying the weight of America's deterrence, comes face-to-face with China's deadliest new missile system? The answer is not speculation. It played out in seconds over the South China Sea. Stay with us, because the details of this interception and the U.S. counterstrike that followed reveal more about 21st century warfare than any parade of new weapons ever could. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. How close did America come to losing one of its most valuable aircraft in just a handful of seconds? The answer takes us into the skies above the South China Sea, where an American B-2 Spirit bomber was returning from a classified surveillance mission. The aircraft had skirted dangerously close to waters near Scarborough Shoal, a disputed reef that has become one of the most tense flashpoints in the region. On board, the crew of 2 navigators trusted the B-2's stealth geometry and radar-absorbing skin to keep them hidden. But what they didn't expect was a sudden challenge from a new Chinese interceptor already designed for targets that were never meant to be seen. The B-2 Spirit carries more weight than its physical frame alone. Each one costs over $2 billion, putting it among the most expensive aircraft ever built. But the real value is strategic. The Spirit is the backbone of America's ability to fly deep into defended regions and deliver nuclear or conventional strikes with precision. With only a small fleet in service, every single bomber counts. Losing one over contested waters wouldn't just be a financial blow. It would erase a significant percentage of the Air Force's total long-range strike capability in a single violent moment. That risk became terrifyingly real when China put one of its boldest claims to the test. Appearing on a Chinese tracking scope was the HQ-29 Neo, a missile system few outside military circles had even heard about. Advertised with extraordinary figures, Mach 16 sprint speeds, twin seeker heads combining infrared and radar tracking, and a fragmentation warhead large enough to shred a football field of airspace, the interceptor wasn't just a defensive weapon. It was designed with one feature in mind: eliminating stealth assets that were supposed to escape untouched. Analysts had long wondered if these claims were inflated. That night, near Scarborough Shoal, they became frighteningly plausible. The first warning inside the B-2 wasn't an alarm, but a rumble of countermeasure systems activating. The crew saw the symbology light up across their displays, an incoming track accelerating too quickly to be anything other than a high-end surface-to-air. They deployed electronic bursts to scramble guidance channels, and flare-like decoys, released from the belly of the aircraft, scattered across the darkness. Yet the HQ-29 seekers compensated almost instantly, switching between frequencies, chasing heat signatures, and pushing through heavy jamming, as if it were designed with these very defenses in mind. Then came the blast. At a closing rate faster than 5 miles per second, the HQ-29 detonated prematurely, a few hundred meters from the bomber's left wing. Shrapnel glowed in the night sky. The force of the explosion rattled the airframe, sending shockwaves through the fuselage. Alarms screamed in the cockpit, not from damage, but from the sheer proximity of the detonation. The aircraft held course, but the crew knew how close they had come. A direct hit at that speed would not have damaged the bomber. It would have annihilated it outright. The Pentagon's concern in the hours afterward was clear-eyed and cold. Lose one B-2 and 10% of the entire stealth bomber fleet disappears. No training flight, no exercise, no opponent had ever posed such a direct and deliberate threat before. This couldn't be written off as a warning shot. China had fired with intent to kill, hoping to prove a point, that its newest defense system could hunt the very aircraft once thought untouchable. What makes the HQ-29 Neo so dangerous is not only its speed or its reach. It is the fact that it closes the gap between declared capability and demonstrated reality. Against the B-2, it showed that stealth is no longer invincible, that a missile hidden along a reef can jeopardize a $2 billion warplane in less than 10 seconds, which left one urgent question at the center of Washington's war rooms. How would the United States respond without igniting the region into open war? The clock was already running when the B-2 returned, shaken but alive. In Washington, military leaders knew they had hours, not days, to decide whether to act or wait for another provocation that could prove fatal. Every discussion carried the same fear. If China could fire once, it could do so again. And hesitation meant placing American crews inside a kill zone with no deterrent response. That urgency gave birth to a mission codenamed Operation Iron Dagger, a plan designed not just to punish the aggressor, but to restore confidence that U.S. bombers could move through the Pacific without being hunted down. Iron Dagger carried two parallel goals. First, to dismantle the specific missile complex that had nearly ended America's only flying stealth wing. Second, to send an unmistakable political message. No surface-to-air battery, not even the most advanced, would survive striking at America's key assets. Indo-Pacific Command built the concept quickly, streamlining resources into a tightly controlled strike package that balanced precision with deniability. Every supporting unit had a role. None could make a mistake. At the center were two stealth bombers, the crews called Nightfall 1 and Nightfall 2. Their job was to deliver the actual strike, slipping into contested airspace without lighting up Chinese early warning radars. Supporting them were fighter escorts stationed further out, electronic warfare aircraft to blind long-range sensors, and refueling tankers staged in arcs across the Philippine Sea. Each link needed to hold, because a single break would compromise the entire chain. Deception started long before the first bomb bay doors opened. The U.S. used J decoys, drones engineered to mimic the radar profile of lumbering B-52 bombers. They entered the engagement zone first, lumbering across radar screens at predictable altitudes, and forced Chinese operators to commit tracking systems against phantoms. Each time a decoy baited a radar to switch on, intelligence analysts marked its signature, mapping the invisible grid the real bombers would need to bypass. The results played out on thermal feeds relayed back to command centers. The radar dome caved in under the first hits. HQ-29 launchers erupted, their propellant cooking off in secondary fireballs. The command post was pulverized before alerts could escape the buried communication nodes. In 88 seconds, the entire site shifted from the most dangerous missile battery in southern China to a smoking crater of twisted metal. For China, the blow was more than material. Hundreds of millions of dollars of hardware disappeared in less than 2 minutes. For American and Allied planners, the success created something even larger. A hole stretching 120 nautical miles wide along China's coastal defense barrier. That gap opened routes for patrols and underscored that even a cutting-edge missile complex was not safe from a coordinated strike. The message was unmistakable on both sides. For allies, relief that America could still pierce heavily defended airspace when needed. For Beijing, an uncomfortable signal that threatening a single bomber could mean losing entire systems overnight. But the real question that hung in the aftermath was larger than a single raid. What does this moment reveal about deterrence in the Pacific? And how far will the next challenge push both sides? Technology alone never secures the skies. Air superiority depends on how that hardware is used, and whether leaders are willing to act when the margin for error is razor thin. The strike against the HQ-29 site showed coordination and timing mattered as much as stealth coatings or advanced munitions. So what do you think? Should America keep answering these provocations with surgical strikes? Or does that path risk spiraling into full-scale conflict? Let me know in the comments. Future clashes are certain, but this one proved that even the most advanced defenses can collapse under precise planning and firm resolve.